have access to all different types of pills. So we started snorting a lot of painkillers. We were crushing up the pills and snorting them, and eventually he got fired, and we all had addictions now, opiate addictions. So we started driving into Brooklyn and buying heroin, and started snorting heroin, and within, I would say, probably about 6 months, I started shooting it. I started intravenously injecting heroin, and that was something that I had always said that I would never do, you know, but there I was, and it just went off the deep end from there. And basically once I started shooting heroin, everything else just went out the window. I didn't care about weed anymore. I didn't care about alcohol anymore. Cocaine, if I could afford it, you know, crack if I could afford it. Heroin was my life, it was my wife, it was my lover, it was everything. It was just my best friend. I just loved it. I loved it. I loved what it did to me. It anesthetized me. It made me feel no pain, and that's exactly what I've been looking for my entire life when I was using. I did not want to feel anything. And I shot heroin probably for about 4 years before I would say probably about, maybe even longer, about 5 years, I'm sorry. It was 2000 when I started, and it was 2005 when I finally made it to my first inpatient rehab facility.
How'd you get there? How'd you get to that point?
Well, I had been in and out of detox a couple of times throughout that point, but it wasn't serious. It was basically just to because I ran out of money or something like that, and I went in there and they would give me medication, and of course I would come out and give my mom some story that I was doing good, I was going to do the right thing, and then I'd borrow some money and I would go try to hide it for a little while, and of course eventually it was out in the open again and everybody knew what was going on. But how I made it to that rehab facility, my cousin was a director for the facility for the adolescent unit, and me and my cousin are both the same age, and he had gone through the same addictions and problems when he was younger, and he had done some time in prison and he got out, and he got his life together, and he got his case act and became a director for the facility. He was director over the adolescent unit, and what happened was, I believe my mother or my brother, one of them, called him, and they came and they found me, and you know, they convinced me to go in, so I went.
And when was that?
That was in December of 2005.
And you've been clean since then?
No. I need to keep walking into walls until, you know, banging my head into the wall a couple of times before, you know, I got to the point where I'm at today. I went to the facility and I stuck it out, and I went through some pretty bad withdrawals when I was in there, and I was almost done with the program. I probably had about a month left, and they sent me out on pass back to the city, and I got back, and I had no intentions of using. I was going to see my mother, and I got to my mother's house, and my mother, you know, she kissed me, hello, and you know, hugged me, and we, you know, she was like, well, you home for the weekend? And I said, yeah, you know, and I'm going back Sunday. And she's like, well, you got some mail, and I got the mail, my driver's license and my tax return check were in there. And I knew that this was going to be a trigger for me, but I kept telling myself, you know, you're all right, you know, you don't have to use. And you know, since I had the driver's license, I asked my mother if I could borrow the car, and she said, of course, you know, because I'd been clean now 7 months, which was the longest period of time in 5 years that I'd put anything together. So I borrowed the car, and I took the money, and I went and actually, you know, I went and bought some new clothes for myself, and I bought cigarettes and candy and stuff to bring back with me to the rehab facility. And then I went home, and everything seemed okay, you know. And then I told my mother I was going out to rent a movie, and I really had all intentions of renting the movie. And I drove down my block, and I turned the corner, and I seen the payphone that I had used many times before, and I said, let me just see if he answers. And I called, and of course he answered, and I was off. As soon as I got a phone with him, I was in the car, and I was on a Bell Parkway heading to the city to go buy heroin. And without even blinking an eye, you know. And I came back.
No video.
I got the video. I had to cover my tracks, you know, like a good addict. So I bought the heroin, came back, got the video, DVD, and went back to my mother's house, went upstairs, shot the heroin, and went downstairs and watched the movie. And she was already asleep, so I thought, you know, aces, like, I'm getting away with it, you know, which was the farthest thing from the truth. I saved a couple of the bags because that's what I always did. So I went back to the facility the next day and I brought it back with me. And of course, me being not really such a person to follow rules, I had actually started a relationship with a female in the facility, and I shot the heroin the night I got back there, and I had nothing left but my needles, my spoon, and the empty bags. But I went to her the next morning, and I for some reason I wanted to be honest with her about what I had done, and I told her, and she told me, "You need to go tell your counselor right now, otherwise I'm gonna go tell him." And I said, okay, I'll tell him, you know, just give me a couple minutes. And they had asked me to bring one of the new residents back to the dorms to have him change his shirt or something. So I went back there and had him change his shirt, and I came back to the facility and I was going to talk to my counselor, and before I even made it through the front doors, he was already coming towards me. She had told him. And normally in these kind of situations, when people would come back from passes relapsing, they would give them a chance to stay. And it was a therapeutic community, so they would shoot them down, which means they would send them down to the kitchen, and you have to scrub pots and pans and clean the grease pits, and you would do this for a couple of weeks. And I figured that's what was going to happen, you know. And they told me that since I had brought the drugs back into the facility, and since I brought the syringes, that I had to be discharged, and that I was never allowed on that facility's property ever again. So they put me on a bus, and they brought me to the train station, and I took the train back to Grand Central Station in Manhattan, and it was one of the worst train rides I think I ever took. And yet I knew that I had 2 bags of heroin at my house sitting in the jacket waiting for me. It was like once I had picked up again, all the old behaviors came back, you know. I saved a couple to bring back with me to the facility. I stashed a couple in my jacket at home, just in case, you know. So when I got back to the house, first thing, you know, I told my mother what had happened, and she was devastated, but she let me stay at the house anyway, and she told me that I need to make plans to get into another rehab. And I shot heroin for 2 weeks, and then I went into another treatment facility.
And you stayed clean.
No, I didn't actually, which isn't funny, but no, I didn't stay clean. I went into that treatment facility, and this was a 28-day program. The last program that I had just gotten kicked out of was actually a long-term therapeutic community. It was a 9 to 12-month program, and I was almost done with it. So I still, even though I had relapsed and I'd been out there for 2 weeks, I still had that clean time that I just had under my belt. So I kind of knew what I had to do, but I didn't know. You know, it was like almost like I didn't care anymore at that point, and I went in there with the attitude like I was better than everybody. And I got in there and I formed another relationship with another female, and I started using it in the facility, and it was like once I had picked up, when I had picked up that on that pass from that therapeutic community, it was just so hard to get back to where I was. And even though